The English castle that has historians in fierce debate, the sound of singing spirits, and the mystery of what lies beneath. This is Bodiam Castle, one of England's most picturesque castles, featured in numerous films and TV shows such as Monty Python and Doctor Who. Erected in 1385 by Sir Edward Dallingrig, former Knight of Edward III, an important political figure. The picturesque castle is located in Robertsbridge, East Sussex. Stay tuned as we explore the countless stories of its famous hauntings. Hear why historians fiercely debate its function as a defensive feature, and discover what could have been hidden under the castle for centuries. Bodiam Castle is a four-sided fortress with towers in each corner. It does not have a central keep, but is known as an enclosure castle. Instead, it boasts a large gatehouse complete with a tower on each side and a massive inner ward that included its domestic structures. The castle interior stays in line with the characteristics of most 14th century buildings in the surrounding area, sat in the centre of the moat that is fed by a natural spring. Surrounding the moat was meticulously landscaped scenery, including vast green fields. This location is the first interesting and debatable design feature, as castles are usually built in locations easy to defend, such as a hilltop or against a river. The design of the landscape was intended to make the castle appear larger to those who dare approach. Bodiam Castle had a central courtyard and numerous domestic buildings built into the castle's curtain walls. The castle appears to have been designed to provide comfortable living accommodations, as well as a display of wealth and power. Today, much of the exterior of Bodiam Castle is well preserved, and some areas have been extensively restored. The interior, however, is in a ruinous state. The general consensus is that Bodiam Castle was built as a means to protect the area from a potential French invasion. However, it's also agreed that the location is most unusual, considering its distance from the coastline. The location has led some scholars to speculate that the fortress was more for visual appeal as opposed to defense. Additionally, the site has no signs of damage from a siege or war. Despite this, there are numerous defensive elements to the castle. The roughly rectangular moat was wide, though it was not very deep. It was also easily drained. A simple trench could be dug out from the edge of the moat, and as the surrounding land was lower than the moat, it would have easily drained within a matter of hours. As such, it's believed the moat served as a decorative element, making the fortress appear far more imposing. This likely served as an intimidation factor or a way for Sir Dallingrig to showcase his wealth and power. However, debate on this continues, as draining the moat would still leave a thick muddy, no man's land, making it difficult to attack. The octagon sits in the moat and is believed to have been manned by a castle guard. Between the island and the castle was also a two-storey barbican. This outer defensive building included a portcullis for extra protection and boasted sleeping quarters for a guard. Originally, the bridge did not lead straight to the castle. Instead, it came in from the side. This would mean an attacking force would be lined up parallel to the castle's walls, in direct line of the walls, gun loops, arrow slits, and archers or gunners along the wall. This serves as evidence that the castle's defensive features were indeed well thought out. To enter the castle, guests would approach the gatehouse from a drawbridge. The gatehouse sits between two towers and includes a massive door, double archway, and portcullis. Additionally, there were machicolations and arrow slits. Inside the gatehouse pathway were murder holes. It had all the features of a full defensive medieval gatehouse, one of the strongest pieces of evidence that Bodiam Castle was built for defence. Each of Bodiam Castle's four corners boasts its own three-storey tower. These towers were ascended via spiral staircases and provided archers with better vantage points. Because the towers rose so high, archers could easily shoot out over the curtain walls when necessary. Another reason why some scholars reject the idea that Bodiam Castle was built for defence is because of the castle's weak points. There are large windows throughout the fortress, making easy access for potential invaders. Additionally, Bodiam Castle's rear was considered a significant weak point, capable of being breached. Further to this, the walls were considerably thinner than other medieval castles. Being the late medieval period, other castles, or better known as fortresses at this point, were built with the consideration that they would have to repel cannon fire. This meant Bodiam was far behind the expected standard of a defensive building of the time. While it is true that a force consisting of trebuchets or cannons would quickly demolish the walls and rain death on its occupants, it would have proved effective at repelling foot troops. Perhaps looking at the history of the decade it was built could provide us with answers. Largely overlooked is the fact that the castle was built just after the peasants' revolt. These rebel armies may not have had the siege equipment required to bring down any form of castle. Maybe it was this fear of angry peasant armies that drove a wealthy, but paranoid Sir Edward Dallingrig to build a home with castle-like defence. To me, this is a plausible answer to the castle's semi-defensive design. In the year 1385, Sir Edward Dallingrig built Bodiam Castle. It would remain in the Dallingrig family from its construction until 1470, serving as a fortified home for generations to come. 1470, upon the death of the last male Dallingrig heir, Richard Dallingrig, Philip Dallingridge was next in succession. However, since she had wed Thomas Lewknor, the site passed into the hands of the Lewknor family by marriage. 1483, during the Wars of the Roses, Sir Thomas Lewknor found himself in support of the House of Lancaster. This greatly bothered King Richard III, who ordered the besieging of Bodiam Castle during his reign. Though it is unknown whether the siege actually occurred, Bodiam Castle was surrendered. The castle suffered no damage during this time, so it's believed it wasn't attacked at all. 1485. After Richard III's reign, Henry VII would later become king. During King Henry VII's reign, ownership of Bodiam Castle was returned to the Lewknor family. 1588. John Levitt of Salehurst purchased Bodiam Castle. However, his later financial problems led him to sell half of his interest in the fortress and various other estates. Upon the sale of these lands, the Levitt family was no longer considered powerful landowners. 1623, the estates of Bodiam were purchased by Sir Nicholas Tufton, later Earl of Thanet. From 1631 to 1641, upon Sir Nicholas Tufton's death, his heir, John Tufton, 2nd Earl of Thanet, inherited his estates, including Bodiam Castle. John Tufton would later sell the castle to pay off his debts to Parliament. Upon its sale, the castle was dismantled. 1722, over 80 years after the dismantling of Bodiam Castle, Sir Thomas Webster purchased the fortress. The castle would pass through the Webster family for over a century. With its history spanning over 600 years, Bodiam is a well-known hotspot for spiritual and chilling encounters. Some claim to have heard strange, otherworldly songs resonating from the depths of the castle's chambers. These ghostly echoes are believed to be tales of monks and nuns who sought refuge within Bodiam's walls throughout centuries of civil wars. But the castle is most famous for the spirit of the Red Lady. The legend of the Red Lady haunting Bodiam Castle is a tale shrouded in mystery. According to local folklore, the Red Lady is believed to be the spirit of a noblewoman who once resided within the castle's walls. Her identity and the circumstances of her demise vary depending on the version of the story. One version of the tale suggests that the Red Lady was a beautiful but tragic figure, either a mistress or wife of a former lord of Bodiam Castle. Betrayed by her lover, she is said to have met a gruesome end within the castle, her spirit forever bound to its halls as a restless spectre seeking revenge. Another interpretation of the legend paints the Red Lady as a benevolent spirit, haunting the castle to protect its secrets from would-be intruders. In this version, her red attire symbolizes her fierce loyalty and determination to safeguard Bodiam Castle, even in death. Regardless of the specifics, numerous sightings and encounters with the Red Lady have been reported over the years, often described as a spectral figure cloaked in flowing red garments, drifting silently through the corridors of the castle. While skeptics dismiss these sightings as mere folklore or tricks of the imagination, many visitors to Bodiam Castle claim to have felt an inexplicable chill in the air or sensed a presence watching them from the shadows, lending credence to the enduring legend of the Red Lady and her haunting presence within the ancient walls of Bodiam Castle. One of the many secrets about Bodiam Castle is the stories of hidden tunnels beneath its walls. It is unknown if the Red Lady is connected to these tunnels in any way. One tunnel was said to have been built as a secret escape route in case of attack, leading from the castle to the nearby River Rother. Over the years, there have been various investigations and explorations around the castle grounds, but no tunnels or secret passages have been officially documented or uncovered. It's possible that any tunnels that might have existed were either filled in or have collapsed over time, leaving behind only speculation and folklore. 1829 John, Mad Jack Fuller purchased Bodiam Castle from Sir Godfrey Webster. He began repairing and restoring the site and added new gates to the castle. John Mad Jack Fuller was an eccentric figure, known for his flamboyant personality, his love of practical jokes, and his eccentric behaviour. He earned the nickname Mad Jack due to his unconventional actions and lifestyle. Fuller was also a wealthy landowner, politician, and philanthropist. He invested in various ventures, including mining, and became one of the most significant landowners in Sussex, England. 1849, George Cubitt, 1st Baron Ashcombe, bought Bodiam Castle and continued carrying out restoration work on the historic site. In 1916, Lord Curzon purchased the castle upon George Cubitt's passing. During this time, the moat was drained and excavations were undertaken. Artifacts discovered during excavations were placed in an on-site museum built under Lord Curzon's orders. From 1925 to the present day, the National Trust has overseen Bodiam Castle. Lord Curzon, dedicated to restoring the castle, ensured its preservation by donating it to the National Trust upon his death. Curzon's restoration work has continued under the Trust's stewardship, and the castle remains under its ownership today. With that, we conclude our exploration of Bodiam Castle. If you are fortunate enough to live near this spectacular site and wish to visit, you can find more information about visiting the castle in the link provided in the description. But our journey through medieval England is far from over. Join us as we explore Norham Castle, nestled on the English-Scottish border. Learn how the site became one of the deadliest locations for Highland warriors, and see just how deeply the bad blood between the English and Scots runs.